See if this works. Oh, no, hang on. What should we call it? I think I can edit it.
I believe we call it the Society of Chaotic Weirdos. I don't know. That's what the server's called.
It won't let me change the name. Anyway, we can edit
Acronym
that.
acronym podcast episode number.
Yeah.
It won't let me.
SCW.
It will not let me change the name, so it's just called whatever it's called. But we'll change the name afterwards.
Yeah, you can change the name afterwards. Everybody ready?
We're gonna need to.
Here we go.
Considering we're already live. Hello, internet.
Oh, hey. Hello and welcome. So,
All right.
we are on another random podcast episode day. Hello, everybody. So when you say hello to me...
Oh, howdy.
Oh, hello. Hi.
I
How's it going?
was distracted by the description on our video. And I'm like, what?
I will attempt to.
We're excellent at this whole podcast thing, you can tell.
I'll attempt to correct the name. So.
All right.
We've never claimed to be professionals.
I'm not laughing at the name so much as the episode description. I don't know. I don't have context. I'm very curious why there's a note saying we're no longer sponsored by Fentanyl. Can someone please remind me what this is about?
It's
I know it's a
giving
joke.
Lockie too much power, I think.
He's gone mad with it.
Wow. I can't seem to alter the name. Okay, well, we'll just stick with this for now. So we'll just deal with that.
All right. So, how's everybody doing?
Glad it's a Thursday.
Pretty good. Ready to talk about one-shots.
Yes. So, my voice is weird. I'm sorry. We are discussing one-shots and how we can use them to help break up long or even stressful things, or just like we do the Christmas one-shot every year, and it's just a time to be chaotic. So
yeah, we do the Christmas one-shot, Halloween one-shots generally, pepper, October, and yeah, they're...
Sometimes we have Panama or Burrito do a Thanksgiving one-shot.
I was going to say, it can be other seasonal holidays and important days and things.
We should start doing an Arbor Day one-shot.
Sold.
I don't
Gotta
remember
fight
what
the
Arbor Day
trees.
is about. I actually forget that one exists.
It's about trees.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we're all just going to be druids in a forest?
Ooh, that'd be fun.
It could be an
You're
end.
never alone if there's
Maybe we
trees
should do that.
around. Don't ask me, because I have so many evil ideas for that.
No,
That statement alone creeps me out. Just saying.
This is the hook. I'll give it to you guys. All right, it's the one shot. It takes place in Ravnica, the world, the entire plane spanning city, where there's only one tree left, and you all have to play Selesnya druids. I'm not going to use the word eco-terrorist, but if that's the way you guys want to take it, then we'll do that.
Okay, what is a Selesnya?
It's in the setting Ravinica. There's the Ravnica. There's a specific clan that is like all about like nature and stuff like that. And they have a tree.
Oh, okay.
So you can imagine their situation's a little bit tenuous in their like plane. The entire material plane is basically one giant city.
Basically, we're just protecting the White Tree of Gondor.
Essentially, yeah.
Or we're going to eco-bomb the entire city and turn it into a lush forest.
Yeah, you got.
I already played that in Kid Icarus Uprising. That doesn't end well.
You just got the Gek from Fallout. You press the button and just everything becomes a plant.
I used to play Civilization 2 when I was a kid, and they had a technology thing where you could send this like eco bomb into a city, which would an enemy city. It would flatten their city and make it into like grass or forest. I can't remember which one.
That was a specific scenario, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
This just sounds like a good launching point for a spore or plant-based zombie apocalypse, which I think is already an existing video game series.
Yeah, The Last of Us. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was called. Yeah.
Or you could just also call it the end game for Kenneth. But here we are.
Yes, you guys have Caneth with the spores and other fun
Yes.
things.
What do you
So-
mean, and other fun things?
Bro, we got like 7 BBEGs in that game. Like, just
got,
take your
like-
pick.
3-ish arcs.
3-ish.
Arcs. Those are arcs. It's good. It's good. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine, guys.
The
I have
teapot,
to-
the chaos, the champions. I know there's another one in there somewhere. The Great
So
Hunt.
we got the Shades, we got Spellthar, we got Caneth, we got. Give me a minute and I'll think about it.
Yeah, basically, the world is our oyster, and 90% of it is against us.
100%.
That's the thing. Maybe. Did you ever think that I'm not going to give
Very
you
violent
spoilers?
oyster.
Oh, I'm wildly aware. Yeah, you thought this was about one-shots? No, we just turned into conspiracy chat.
So I personally find that one-shots are really good for when I'm about to throw something heavy, or I just have, or I'm about to switch arcs on you guys. It's a good time to throw a one-shot in there to kind of cleanse your minds.
Yay,
I
mind
tend
wipes.
to
think
like them
one-shots are-
for.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sure. I tend to like them for the different settings just because I feel like as beautiful as Evatoria is, it's only one world, and so it lets us explore different world building and different people world building. So that's my favorite part if we're talking favorite parts.
I think I like being a player.
That's fun too. I think you were saying something, DC?
Well, I was just kind of gonna agree with and build on the whole thing of the timing of a one shot is, yeah, like if something heavy's gonna happen, or like right after something heavy's going on, um, even if the heavy something is mainly centric around maybe one or two characters, just having that chapter break, the intermission for snack time in extra long movies kind of thing.
The beach
It's-
episode.
Exactly. Like every long campaign needs their beach episode moment, where whether it's something in the game itself or a one shot that's completely different to break things up. I like one shots not only because of that, but also they let they let a player muck around with classes and builds they typically wouldn't have thought of, or they were hesitant to try for a main game because it's like, this seems really cool, but what if it doesn't go right, or what if it doesn't match what I want to do? I find it's like a really, really great way to demo the different things, like a trial run, the free trial run before you sign up for the subscription long haul.
100%. I think that's a good point. Is that, like, there's plenty of people have, like, I'm sure all of us have like a bunch of different like character ideas or builds or anything like that, but it's kind of that, like, am I really gonna like sit down here and go through an entire long form campaign with like a particular character? I don't know. I think let's try this out in a one shot or something like that first before you double down on something.
It's my dream to at one point have everybody in the server run a one shot for us. But I understand there's some people who are like more uncomfortable with the idea of stepping into the DM role. But eventually, one day, I think everyone will take a shot at it.
I'm
Yeah.
still
Don't mind.
reaching for a Kremling one shot.
I've got some ideas. You guys said steampunk horror, and I was like, ooh, actually, that sounds cool. So I've got some ideas, none of them fleshed out enough to actually be anything, but maybe one day.
You just revealed a poison apple I did not actually know was going to be a thing. So now I'm very excited. I'll probably be the first one dead, but I'm still excited.
As I say to every other hook, sold, but more so that one than any others.
I will point out that the one shot we did with Panama, within 30 seconds, I'd lost an arm.
And that was the point of the game, though.
But I'm just pointing that out.
That one was geared towards killing you. For the listeners, I didn't actually play that one, but Panama did a what was it, SCP
Yeah,
style
SCP
one shot
inspired one shot.
in October, and casualties clearly of some variation or another were had.
Nobody
You just
died.
lost an arm. Nobody died.
Nobody died. It's fine.
He was only mostly dead all day.
Yeah, it was only maimed. I mean, yeah. What's a little light maiming between friends?
As a treat.
The real treasure is the maimings we had along the way.
And another thing I like is like I can throw more puzzles at you guys, and if you guys don't manage the puzzles, it's fine. Or more combat heavy, because we do have bigger combats, but we don't have a lot of combat in Eva. At least from my personal experience, I've been in games where it's a combat every session. So the fact that we don't have that, yeah. So one shots I can do, throw you guys in an arena, or I can have you guys go through a maze. All sorts of fun things.
And that's another thing the one shots are good for too, from the DM standpoint, is trying out different styles of game. Like a PvP based game or a purely puzzle game or just even different genres. Like I had never actually run a not that I think it counts, but up until the uh haunted the haunted house 2-shot game that I ran, I'd never actually run a horror style game. I've definitely included moments in my own campaign that were intense and quite dark, but I've never actually done a dedicated horror style game, though I'm not sure Paranormality counts because it was very much shenanigans.
It
But
was amazing.
I like your brand of horror though, DC, because it definitely comes across as it's not like not campy, but like that very like it's very like older style, kind of like Nosferatu kind of thing, where there's
Yeah,
like the ghost was like playing with us like the whole time. It wasn't like it's not like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or like something like that, or like gore horror or anything like that.
And that's one reason I typically don't like a horror style game, is because so many things these days, in my experience, I typically don't lean into horror because I don't like getting scared. I don't handle it well. But so many things are like, oh, now there's blood and guts and bodies everywhere, and oh, look, there's a body on a meat hook in the corner. It's like, no, a good classic horror, in my opinion, is very much one where you lay out the setting. So, for example, our heroes step into through the door into the foyer of an old dusty mansion, and you don't describe every detail. You describe enough to give a basic image, and you give a couple ambient little things here and there, and then you let your players put and just kind of simmer with that half description, and you give just little details and let them build the tension themselves. Because I find a lot about an enjoyable horror, in my own opinion, is one where it's like the writer should not have to tell you why it's scary. The writer should tell you details, and then you are like, this is why it's scary. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. And back to your horror, like 2-shot. I would say it's putting it in video game terms. It was more Death and Taxes than like FNAF, which is more my vibe. Like I don't like big jump scares or gore and stuff, so I really liked yours.
Yeah. Mine, admittedly, the two biggest inspirations for mine, well, three actually. They're kind of three inspirations, two more than the third, but it was kind of a strange little amalgamation of um, Luigi's Mansion was a huge part of it, especially because that's basically the map we ended up running around in. And Scooby-Doo was a massive part of the antics, which is why, the stairs turn into a slide and things like that. And the villain wasn't actually a terrifyingly horrible entity, but there was actually also a little bit of inspiration drawn from Phasmophobia, which was more so working with an agency and getting some equipment to take along with you and just try to figure out what room was the core problem kind of thing. So there was definitely not the heaviest horror inspiration in that was Phasmophobia. And even then, it's that game typically isn't jump scare horror. It's very atmospheric with elements of, oh shoot, what just happened?
I can see that.
I think it was great, especially since it was a little break from right before. We're about to get into some of the end game stuff in your campaign, from what I understand.
Yes.
So
we
it was
are.
It's good to put it off a little. I don't want it to end. Let's do a couple one shot.
I'm actually very amused at where we put the pause point on my game, and this actually also ties in with the putting in a one shot after a heavy moment, because we just went through the darkest point of the game, and I don't think it'll actually be darker than that. And so having the silly antics in a haunted house game was a very good way to intercept that, and just like, well, yeah, like you said, it's good to have a break before you get into things. And like you said, we're pretty much in the end game now. There's only a little bit further to go, and so it's good to have a moment before you plunge headfirst into the end, basically.
Yeah, I think that brings us quite neatly onto our other topic, which is how we handle heavier themes.
Yes.
Because
Do we have heavy themes?
well, I mean, the one shot that I did, which is some time ago now, there was a planned theme that I had to sort of nip a bit because of a player that was not happy with, or wouldn't have been happy with how it would have turned out. On the horror side, and that's sort of the thing you have to sort of modify with your players. That sometimes it's you can still keep the core element, but you go just pull that back a bit, just change that a bit, just alter that a bit. It doesn't change the core story. It doesn't change really the impact. It's just a little tweak.
Weirdly, for me, I have been DMing and STing and GMing games for 23 years now. And
Pause for applause.
that's no applause. I'm old. I've really come into learning that with this group. Most of the groups I've run games for, they're interesting. But with this group, I have actually learned to fine tune, and if there's something I want to include and I know that a player is a little bit uncomfortable with it, I go and I talk to them. The biggest example I'm going to pick on him is Ian. Is I go, and if I'm looking at artwork and I see a couple that are doll-like, I will be like, hey, can I send you some art of characters I'm thinking of? They're going to be dolls. Once you look at them, if they're too much, I'll delete them. And he's, sometimes it's like, no, not right now. Sometimes like, yeah, send them. And then we discuss them. We delete them out of the chat so he doesn't have to look at them ever again. And that's how, with that, especially with the Plague Forged in Eva right now, we've been doing a lot of fine tuning with some of those, that some NPCs you guys haven't found yet, but so yeah, I don't know where I was going there, but yeah, fine tuning to your players.
Yeah, And that's a huge part, especially when you're dealing with a heavier topic, is then you can gauge how heavy certain parts can be as opposed to others. So you can kind of shift the balances and figure out what kind of story is really going to be compelling without absolutely traumatizing your players or um or otherwise making the story, for lack of better phrasing, dysfunctional. Because once a DM knows their players, they can build a game and story around those players and their characters, and it helps build their characters into the world instead of just dropping them on a two-dimensional map and saying, "Here, go fight goblins." So
And
it brings the world to life.
in a similar vein, just something as much as like the morals of the players. Like, for example, if I was running a game that was just like Panama and Burrito, it would be a lot different than if I added anybody else into the game. Well, maybe Dusty as well. But, adding different people in who have different play styles, not just morals, but play styles, morals, everything, and how they want to play games will change how not even heavy, because I feel like I can still include heavy things with all of you guys, but the direction we take them in with that. Like, there are some players who, to reference Critical Role, they want the grog experience where they're a big beat 'em up guy who goes and spends his nights in brothels. There's some who are happy to never have the word brothel thrown around in their campaign ever. It doesn't matter. You fit. Not only do I fit my playstyle for you to you guys and what you want, but you guys fit your own playstyles to each other to make a cohesive game.
No, and I think that's a really good point because you had mentioned if if it was just a game with like Panama and I mean y'all have played with me long enough that I have no issues when it comes to like if things get like darker or like as willing I am to like scrap with like pretty much anyone we run across. Like I don't try and like actively like pick a fight with everybody, but I'm not opposed to it. But like there's certain things like when it comes to topics of like if there's like a kid in distress or like if with stuff with like diseases and everything like that, even I have my limits. I get squeamish when it comes to that kind of stuff, and it's stuff that we run across quite a bit in Evatoria. And I think Izzy does a really good job of like navigating that and making sure that like hey, if there's like a kid in distress, there's a way you can save them, that sort of thing and everything. So even yeah, that's my point.
Mhm. It's also a balance of how much of detail you give to a certain situation. Like you said, with the kid in distress or the illnesses and whatever, and especially in the Evatoria game with the blight stuff, like there some people would lean very heavily into the I don't know if it's the right word, but the more visceral side. They would get very into the descriptions of what the different scarrings would look like or what the symptoms seem like. And not everybody can handle that sort of thing. So, in my
Yeah.
opinion, Izzy has handled that exceedingly well by giving us the general description of the symptoms at this point might be in this range. The scarring will probably look something like this, but never like the descriptions. While there has been some explanation of okay, so they might have this kind of pattern or look sort of like this, it's never been and the skin is turned this color kind of gritty stuff that isn't entirely necessary for storytelling unless you have a lot of people inclined towards the gritty guts kind of descriptions.
Yeah, I think I think that's a great segue. Speaking of it wasn't the last Eva session, but the time before when we ran across the druid who had like the crystal thing going on. I think there was this moment where Izzy's trying to like tread this line between like DC doesn't want to like hear about this medical stuff, but maybe Burrito really does because I'm like trying to figure out what the heck's wrong with this guy.
I thought that was handled really, really well.
It really was, because it was enough information for me to be like, okay, all right, cool.
And that's another thing too, is the type of conditions can also change a lot for how descriptive a person can get. So like with the case of the druid with the crystal growth, that I found to be fascinating, concerning for this guy's well-being, but fascinating. Whereas if it was a case of dare I say, a more quote unquote normal skin condition, or when I say
Fleshy.
normal, and yeah, that thank you, a more a squishier type of body horror, we'll say. That sort of thing I wouldn't be able to handle as readily as the crystal growths, which I thought was, like I said, really interesting because you don't come across that very often. And it's not really visceral, it's crystal.
Yeah, and I think also another big thing is that the druid wasn't wholly like in distress. He was almost like indignant about it. Like Flex was a little bit curious, and the dude just like stepped right up and was just like, "Yeah, go ahead, bud. Like, take a look at it. Like, you know." I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
"Boss,
like, look at me, I'm shiny.
yeah." I was like, "Boss, are you like in trouble? Like, do you need help or something like that?" He's like, "I've already talked to clerics. Like, what can you do, punk?" And I was like, "All right, bro, calm down."
Yeah. It's like, you tell me if I need help. Come on, open your eyes, take a look.
Yeah. Like, I feel like that also helped in the thing is that the guy like clearly like isn't wholly distressed about the whole ordeal, but it's still kind of like, bro, you are literally turning into a crystal. Like, let me take a look at you.
Yeah. And that's I try to give enough description with especially medical or body horror things where it's enough where you can form something in your mind's eye with how deep you want to go with it without forcing people to go too deep if they don't want to think like that. So yeah, I'm glad I am doing a good job with that.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've always enjoyed about the Evatoria game and the other games we run in our group, is the descriptions on all sorts of different things have always been enough for the mind's eye to work with and form something suited to how a person wants to see it. But at the same time, you're not seeing it how you want to see it so much as you're seeing what the DM wanted you to see in a way that you can handle in any situation. So, for example, we'll say as a random off aside, somebody steps into the wild jungles of Tortuga and they find the ancient ruin. We got enough description to be like, okay, there's ruins, there's thick foliage, the path is kind of a little overgrown, and there's frozen individuals here and there. And there was enough for us to picture it without needing a distinct map and the heavy details of what every person's eye color was or anything like that. Like, we were all seeing what we were supposed to see, even if it wasn't like an exact map and picture of what we were supposed to see. We kind of saw what we needed to, if that makes sense. I may have just talked in a circle, I'm sorry.
No, that does
No, I
make
get you.
sense. I think that's kind of the core of D&D in a way, is that it's a personal experience in the end. It's the DM tells you a story and you decide, you decide how it shows up in your head and how you put your own flavor on it.
To quote Matt Mercer the other day, we can use our imaginations.
Exactly. That's one thing I really like about, at least for most settings and stuff, what I like about using theater of the mind instead of being given a map of the town. Like, I get or like being given reference pictures of, here, this is what the architecture's like, this is a general appearance of it, but you're not given this street is called this and it connects to this street and this goes here and so lives here and everybody else is over here and so on and on and on. It's not hyper detail, and it's not a tightly, like, it's not an iron fist control scenario. It's very open, and more often than not, everybody else is generally on the same page too. So it all works together because you're all visualizing something that meshes, even without it being on a table. It's just kind of fun that way, I think.
I definitely think it's good. I weirdly, okay, for me personally as the DM with Eva is I'm always like, I need to describe things more. I need to describe things more. I need to describe things more. And then you guys are always like, you're doing it great. You're giving us just enough to get get it across. And I'm like, oh, you guys are so sweet. So that's my biggest thing as a DM is I don't think I describe, but that and map making, but we don't discuss map making.
Map making is something I find that unless a person is very much geared towards it and really, really enjoys it, it can be a challenge for DMs to work with. Like, one person I know that has run some one-on-one games with me, really enjoys map making, and I gave it a shot, and I could not wrap my head around it. I only really started to enjoy map making when I got a computer program that kind of helped visualize things a lot more than having to draw every single wall, every single this and that, and putting every single singular piece and unit in. The program I got lets me random generate rooms, and then you can go in and you can tweak and adjust things as you want. So it gives you a map and you can build on it, and then you just go with it, and it kind of just gives you little inspirational nudges as opposed to staring at a blank page. It's like, okay, I need a fortress. Oh, how do I build a fortress?
A little snip here that the plan is Lockie and I are going to have a map of the island and a map of Porto Roy before campaign 3 starts for you guys. Lockie doesn't know this yet, I don't think.
I do now.
Now he does.
Surprise, you've been drafted.
You make such wonderful maps.
Apparently.
I think it's also an interesting thing because this group is, we're, an online group, and I'm definitely, not used to that sort of thing. I've been playing tabletop games since I was like, since I was a kid, and there was always like, even if you had nothing else, you could set a can down or something like that and be like, all right, this is the monster, something like that, so it didn't matter like what state anything was in, you could always like, play it and stuff like that. But it was like, it's something that I struggle with when I run like my own games. Like I run Spelljammer for Izzy and Panama and like a couple other friends and stuff like that. And like, it's something I struggle with. It's like, man, I really want a map for this, but like, there's a lot of like tool sets out there and everything like that. Owlbear Rodeo does okay. It gets my point across, but it's definitely something.
I have to say, I am not hating the D&D Beyond map. It is simple enough that my brain can comprehend it.
I think it's also like, if you have a planned encounter, it's like, it's one thing, but if you have like chaotic players that are going to like go all over the place, you don't know who they're going to pick a fight with and stuff like that, you can like write this tavern and, you have a good description of it and everything like that. But then if your players decide to like, I don't know, pick a fight with somebody, now it becomes a dynamic like combat encounter that you're just like, I need a map.
Oh, you want to know what annoys me?
People to fight with.
You want to know what annoys me right now? You know how we had the good combat? Well, good, whatever. We had a combat last session.
I thought
Guess
that was good.
Guess what they've just added? They've just added a measure tool to the D&D Beyond maps.
Beautiful.
I don't need it
It
this
only
week.
took
I
them
needed
that
it
long.
last week.
Hey, I mean, no qualms about it. They definitely have made it clear that the combat builder in D&D Beyond is in alpha and the trackers in beta.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I mean, so props to them for putting up the hard work and stuff. It's just unfortunate how the timing is. Like the many times we've gone to sat down and play a game and D&D Beyond decides that they're gonna maintenance the servers or whatever else.
It really takes the D&D scheduling thing and makes it more digital in its own light, right? Because scheduling games in D&D has always been kind of its own meme, or at least source of memery. And once things went digital, it was supposed to make things easier because it's like, okay, people may not be able to be here in person, but they could still play with their phone or their computer. And now that we're getting the online battle map stuff, it's like now there's still scheduling stuff because, like you said, server maintenance or certain things don't work right. And so it's like the biggest meme of D&D continues to evolve as the game itself does.
Yeah, it's not only are you combating with the other players like schedules and stuff like that, you're also combating with I say combative, it's not necessarily like an antagonistic relationship, but where we also have to account for Discord, D&D Beyond, Tailspire, if you use that, whatever, Roll20, and all these services are great and they are great, but if it's like we're also accounting for like 4 separate sets of software.
Yeah. I have Tailspire. I have tried it. I'm not very good with it.
I thought it was
I've
the
looked at
coolest
that
thing
one.
I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, but for me personally, it was my group, and I think some of us, we got into D&D and stuff because it's like generally, other than like DLC or like books and stuff like that, it's a relatively free hobby, So I always find it difficult. Like I would love to use Tailspire, but I find it difficult as someone who's, I'm not going to shell out a lot of money for like D&D and stuff. I'm not going to be like, everyone has to spend $20. No, I'm sure it's more than that. I don't remember. It's been
Yeah,
like over 2 years since I've looked at it, but
I think it's been that
I
long
remember
since
having it.
I've looked at it, and I have the game.
I remember putting it on my wish list on Steam, but never really committing because of price tag and justifying it. And then
yeah.
last year, my brother got me Dungeon Alchemist, which you can't link multiple people playing together with because it's strictly a map builder. But that's what I wanted Tailspire for anyway. And so, but I've been curious about Tailspire because you can build the multi-story maps, whereas Dungeon Alchemist, which is incredibly well done, and they're still building it. I think it's actually still classed as early access right now. Um, Dungeon Alchemist, you can't build the multi-tier because it's a map builder. You can set it up to be a 3D isometric map, but it is a map builder. It's not a put your game in here and play it through this system.
On Steam, Tailspire is $24.99 US. I don't know what it is in Canada.
I will have a look.
And of course, always, I would never advocate for the piracy of media or anything like that. But Discord does have a stream your screen function.
Yeah. I think that I struggle with maps as it is.
It just eye patch.
And so I would rather just use D&D Beyond and Locky to make maps.
To be fair,
I too have a
Locky
very
does
reasonable monthly rate.
I was gonna. To be fair, Locky does make incredible maps.
He does, which is always very enjoyable.
It's just layers on Photoshop.
Well, you
Oh,
do
here we
what
go.
I want you to
Tailspire
do.
Tailspire in Canadian maple leaves, dollars, is listed at $28.99 before putting it in the shopping cart and checking tax.
Well, that's not too much more than what we pay
Yeah.
here with the
It's
freedom
not
bucks.
it's not too expensive. But for someone who's but yeah, I could see how for people who don't want to spend a whole lot of money or don't know how much they'll use it, I could see why somebody wouldn't pay into it. Because, it looks like an incredible system, but you don't know how much you'd really lean into it if you don't have a group.
Yeah, like if I had a group who everybody had it, I would probably force myself to learn it better. But because nobody else has it to my knowledge, that there's no point in me trying to learn it just to, stream the maps I've made. So,
I feel like I wouldn't go too heavy into it unless I was in a group that was like super like dungeon crawler heavy, because everything's like grid based there, and like you have like the individual like pieces all throughout it and everything like that. So if you really wanted to go like super nitty gritty with it, you really could just like build a city, and have everyone like explore around it in real time. But I don't. That's a lot of legwork there, boss.
talking about grids, I've been playing a lot of Clue with my kids because it's Critical Role Clue and they're obsessed with it right now. And yes, it is them asking, not me. At this point, it was me first, but now it's not. Almost a daily we're playing it. That they have the little
roll clue.
yeah, they released it. I think I got it last year around the holiday season, but Clue has little squares on it. You could use a Clue map for a battle map.
Oh, that'd be fun. We get Miss
That-
White slaying dragons.
It was Colonel Mustard with the great sword in the dungeon.
Here goes Professor Plum casting power word kill.
Yeah, so it's actually campaign 2 of Critical Role with the characters and everything.
Okay. Miss Scarlet, why did you use Fireball in the dining room? You killed everyone. Sorry, I'm having too much fun with the battle map clue thing.
Colonel Mustard in the library with Shatter.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
so
yeah.
all I'm hearing is a Clue one shot.
It's tempting. It's tempting.
Don't
I
make
thought
me
that was
change
the
tomorrow.
Spelljammer. I thought that was what the Spelljammer one shot was going to be. At first, so for the internet's explanation, in October we did a Spelljammer one shot that I believe Izzy
Yes.
DM. Wait, no,
I DM'd it.
Izzy, did you did DM it? Okay. And at first I couldn't really tell if it was going to be Clue or Among Us. And it was kind of both, and then it became like infestation of evil tribble. And then it just kind of kept going from there and dropped us on a cliffhanger. It's like,
That's
you
why.
can't do this.
That's why I love.
I want to know what happened.
That's why I love Spelljammer so much as a setting, just because it's like, hey, every sci-fi imaginable, we're just gonna throw it into a fantasy pot, and we're gonna like just stir the handle until we get something.
Some delicious stew.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's this weird, very unique blend.
I think it was fun.
It was great fun. It was
Oh.
it was an adventure I really wanted to see what happened next. Of course, that's partially because I put too much story into the character I built.
No, it's good. Yeah, I want to return to the Spelljammer. I need click clack.
Well, maybe another time we can do it.
Oh, don't tempt me. That would be so much fun.
But another fun little fact about Eva is that for brothels, because it's not something a lot of the players want anything to do with. But because for quote unquote realism, I do have them in the cities, but every single one has like a bar front, so you wouldn't have to interact with the red light part of it if you didn't want to. So, fun
That is something
fact.
I really appreciate. Because, like you said, not everybody wants to be involved with the, as you said, the red light aspect is for characters who don't mind, quote unquote, walking off the stage for a little while. It lets the other people still be in play and interact on the bar side of things and avoid what's going on in the back room, so to speak.
Most likely what's going on in the back room is Leo getting poisoned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably right.
I always wonder because he's always like oh, you know, we worry about his safety as our team rogue and everything like that. But as far as I can tell, every single time he goes off on his own, he's getting like kidnapped or poisoned or like something's happening. Of course, like the cleric is gonna like grab a hold of him and be like, "Mr. Leo, please, like just stay in eyesight."
It's only been 30 seconds since the last incident.
I just don't want you to get hurt, boss. Please.
In I am gonna call this out because it's funny. I've actually got the stream open to keep an eye on the chat window, and Ian's actually in there, and he made a comment, "Where's the illegal gambling side?" And I wanted to point out that we did actually have a segment of the EVA game before we started streaming in Otana before it was destroyed. Um, we were trying to find information, and Leo did actually get into some illegal gambling and cheating, and was actually poisoned during that game.
Did this happen?
For anybody in the far flung future who's like watching this, like in archive or something like that, I just want to point out for the record that he's in a chat right now saying, "I'm trying to get poisoned again." So just to clarify.
For anyone after the end times.
Yeah, exactly. the aliens digging up the server stack with this recording on it.
The people in the vaults.
Yeah.
Hello to the people in the vaults and the aliens.
Hello, little vault dwellers.
Oh my gosh. Listen, another one shot I admittedly is not my own invention. So if any of you guys have ever played Fable 3, I don't think it was DLC, I think it was part of the main game. That there's a one side quest you can do referred to as the game. And you go to a specific house and you have these 3 guys in robes around a battle map table. And they're looking for a player, and they shrink you down and make you basically go through their D&D game where they're all taking turns voicing the NPCs and stuff. And I always think that's a really cool idea to do that to the players. Have them make characters who then have to get shrunk and play in a D&D game. That it's absurd. It's very very tropey with what they're doing on the table. Like
they have to find a magic sword, don't they?
Yeah, the magic sword. The princess has been kidnapped. You have to the magic sword is the only thing that can defeat the big bad guy at the end. All of that. And I would love to do that to you guys as a one shot. Like pitch it as like a real thing and then have you guys have that happen in the one shot.
Well,
that would be hilarious.
We've talked about them before. In EVA, there's a canon tabletop game called like Cubicles and Commuters. And I love the idea that we just rock up playing our EVA characters, and it's like, you know, this is like, again, another one-shot pitch. You know, we play as our EVA characters, playing as their own tabletop characters in like a very mundane, you know, Middle Managers of Madness adventure module.
Scranton.
Yeah, exactly.
I can already predict that Kat's character would be that office guy, the office worker who overworks, drinks too much coffee, and gripes about his job to himself, but doesn't actually like quit, even though he sounds like he really wants to.
I'm gonna call myself out. And does anyone? I haven't watched The Office too much, but Flux would definitely be the guy in the show The Office with like the middle part.
I don't
Nobody's
watch
seen
The
The Office.
Office.
All right, great. That's awesome
Like,
because I've barely
bits of
seen
it.
it as well.
I've seen bits of it, but I haven't watched enough to really get
What's
The
his name?
Office. The closest thing I've seen to that was Better Off
Was it-
Ted.
That guy?
Yeah, that guy. You can't tell me that's not Flux in an office job.
Listen.
There's too much hair.
Yeah, to Shroot. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just talking personality wise. Of course, he'd be bald. But...
Oh my god. Listen, I'm sitting here not running a game, wanting to give you guys so many spoilers. You guys
See, this is why we agree to these things, so we can go fishing.
man. Gotta fish harder there.
And I'm trying real hard.
Has
That's one
Flux
thing
has
is-
gone fishing.
Yes, Flux has attempted to learn to fish.
Okay. What was that, DC?
That is one thing about being a DM that is so hard is once you get a story you really into or you've planned things ahead and you're waiting for the party to catch up, it is so hard to not get too excited that you just spill the beans. And I've been on the brink of that so many times, and I know Izzy has too, because we've both laughed at each other about it and then probably lamented it.
Considering we took the summer off.
I'm sorry.
simply do what I do and forget completely that Spelljammer exists until it's time to run another session.
See, that only works for some games. In some games, it's once you've got your things planned, it's like I know, for example, for Hearthwarming, there is a situation coming up that I would love to just spill all the exciting little details about, but I can't. So I'm like, oh, we gotta get there, but we have to finish what we're doing in the Mindscape first, and we're almost done, but I want to talk about it so bad, but I can't. So it's like, or if you forget and you like on the flip side, like you just said burritos, on the flip side, you just forget it, shelf it until next game time. It's like you're learning your own game. It's like, wait, that happened? When did that happen? Why did that happen?
Oh no, I remember the stuff that happens more than my own players. I just I refuse to get too excited about it because the scheduling is sporadic at best. So I just I'm like, all right, we're just gonna shove that deep into the back rooms of my own mind, and when someone ats me in the chat asking for scheduling, then I'll remember it.
Okay, so kind of like the Pirates game.
Yeah, exactly.
I play the Pirates game when you run the Pirates game when you guys request the Pirates game.
I'm always requesting it.
We're always up for the Pirates game. The problem is Murphy's Law does not appreciate the Pirates game.
No, that game truly is cursed.
That's because it was supposed to be a one-shot.
I won't let it die.
I think other than the one lucky break we had, the only time I've actually experienced it run was it was something to do with birthday wishes or something, or some other little thing. Basically, we were trying to will or wish into existence, and it's like, this is what I want for this wish or for my birthday or whatever it was. Somebody did that, and it actually managed to work, and it happened. And then we proceeded to not be able to play for 3 months.
I feel like I'd be okay letting go of pirates if any of you were capable of writing bad characters. I love all the pirate characters way too much. I love Maggie. I love the I don't have my notebook out, so I'm having trouble with names. But
the weirdest cast of characters I've ever walked into. It's amazing.
It's so good.
Okay, so the cast of characters for pirates is we have Brood the captain who's a bugbear.
Yeah.
We have Maggie who's a halfling. Or is she a
Yes.
gnome?
No, actually, I believe.
No, I couldn't remember. I know she was
one of them. I have to check.
Our cleric who's on vacation.
Yep.
In quotations.
Just on vacation, joined a pirate crew for vacation.
As one does.
We have Boris.
The quartermaster, technically, yes. The resident ghost.
We have. I don't remember what Ian's new character is. I'd have to
I
actually
think it was
look.
a water. It was some sort of water
Water-
themed name.
I think it was a water genasi.
He was a water genasi. I think it was.
In my head, I only have him listed as my newly adopted son.
All right, I just opened up the campaign because for this. I was gonna say Drip as a joke. His name's actually Drip. So
See,
yeah,
I
we
was
have
thinking like splash or wave or something like that. No, okay, it's Drip.
Yep, Drip, who came riding in on a shark. We have Elowin, who just popped into the ship and has everyone just accepts. Like, okay, you have
My
proof you should
papers,
be
I'm supposed
here.
to be here. I'm supposed to be here.
And we
I
have
had too
Tiger
much fun with that
Lily,
character.
who's a Kender. We have Vathos, who's Vathos.
Not our resident ghost, but our resident undead.
Yeah. And it's a good little
It's
thing.
chaos.
I
It
guess
is absolutely chaos.
Good ship and crew.
Back to the podcast topic of one shots and everything like that. It's we're talking about pirates and everything like that. Is pirates was originally supposed to just be a one shot. And whether that be through cyberbullying of Izzy or our genuine love for the game or whatever, it has definitely grown off the page, as it were.
It's always the cyberbullying of Izzy. See, if
The
I
topic of
could, I would
being TM.
cyberbully Locky to do his game more because I want to know more about that world.
I honestly, yeah.
I could.
That's what you always say, and then you just leave it at that.
Well, and then you give me maps to make and other important things to do. So
See, there's the counterpoint.
There it is. All right.
But
we know who we're cyberbullying.
But those maps aren't needed until campaign 3, and we still have a lot of campaign 2 to get through. I haven't finished sketching out my initial ideas for the maps, so you can't blame it on me right now.
Now my other hobby is essentially ended because of geographical concerns. I will see what I can do.
Yay, more Locky games.
I definitely enjoyed the one shot that Locky ran. I'm remembering a few different things about the characters. I know there were 2 dwarves in the party. I know one was mine, and she was kind of snarky. And the other, the main thing I remember about the other one was we were fighting crocodile monsters in the sewer, and one of them had a gem in its mouth, and I think the other dwarf was played by Burrito. And the one key line I remembered was, yeah, my dwarf's my character's dwarf stance kicks off, and
Listen, is it any question that I was playing the dwarf that decided to go gator riding for a gem? Like, of course it was me, the Florida man himself.
yeah, that was pretty hilarious. Is the Florida dwarf?
I think I said my dwarven sense is kicking in. I'm going in.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it was just hilarious.
Listen, there was a river gator, all right? Of course I was going to ride it. Come on now.
I think you surprised everyone, and yet nobody at the same time with that stunt. Because at first it's like, wait, you're doing what? It's like, no, of course he's doing that.
Yeah. Well, I was playing the totem druid, so I had some level of competency when it came to animal handling. So there was there was something going for me.
At least there's that. I don't actually remember what class my character was. Now I want to go check that because I remember really liking that character.
So talking
Nice
about
deep
one
lore.
shots, is there any class you started in a one shot that you actually said, okay, I've tried it, I don't like it, I don't want to play this again?
No. I don't really remember for sure. Because the closest I got to that was the Artificer. Which one was it? The Armorer Artificer. But after I got used to that, like just keeping track of every single enchantment.
The flow chart.
Yeah,
I-
like spreadsheet simulator with a dose of magical nonsense. Once I got the hang of that, that was pretty fun. I honestly did enjoy that.
Man, I don't know how you guys can enjoy that. Like, I love Dottie, but I am so glad that I multi-classed her because I do not like Artificer.
Well, I don't think I'd do an armor subclass artificer again. Not without if I did, I'd want to start one at a low level to, get eased into it. Cause when I tried the armor artificer the first time, um Azurix was level 15, and that was basically just looking at the deep end of the tide pool and being like, yeah, that looks fun, and then being overwhelmed. But for the listeners, Azurix is a character I've actually played a few times now in one shots, and I've been enjoying her now as a higher level armor just because I'm used to it. My recommendation as far as something like the Artificer class or a Wizard class, if it's your first time, play him in a lower level one shot just to get familiar with it. Um, the one time I played a Wizard she was set to level 9. That was actually pretty good because you got your spell list, you've got this and that and this and that, your specialty. It's fairly straightforward. For a complex class, don't start them at a high level. That's my recommendation. Don't shy away from trying them, but don't jump in at like a level 18 one shot with a class that you haven't tried before, especially if it's like the Artificer or something else complex, because you will get so lost.
Druid wizard. Yeah. As someone who's done both, I can't say how many times I've like sat down for a one shot, being like, yeah, I'm gonna play a wizard, or I'm gonna play an artificer and stuff like that. I have a lot of experience playing artificer, but like you sit down, you're like, all right, I'm making this like level 15 artificer or like wizard, and then you like look at the like sheer volume of options, and you're like, oh man, I completely forgot about this leg. Oh no, this sounded great on paper.
Yeah.
So I want to put in Ian's 2 cents. He says, I've never had one that I didn't like in 5e. I've had tons I've wanted to play more, like Wild Magic Sorcerer.
Go for it. Wild
Ooh,
Magic
I haven't
Sorcerer
played
is
a
one
Wild
I've
Magic
wanted to
yet.
try too, just because of the randomness that can happen. And yeah, like, don't shy away from trying new classes. Don't shy away from trying new races, because you'll end up finding out like you might find one that you like a lot more than the ones you usually run. Initially when I started playing, my first character was a dwarf. I loved her. Second character was a dark elf, and he was a lot of fun. I predominantly will lean towards the dark elves. But then I played a game where I was like, you know what? I'm trying out the fighter class. I want to do something different. I'm going to try a half orc. And it turns out I really, really like the half orc. And it's not one I typically would have expected, because when you put the half orc beside an elf or a dwarf and put them side by side and look at them, they are very different. So yeah, don't be afraid to try new ones, even if you're not sure you'll like the race or the class, because you never know.
That's like my favorite combo is a Dwarf Barbarian. But after playing Jade enough, I genuinely have to say a a Forge Cleric Earth Genasi is pretty cool.
I think my favorite what the heck, why does this work combination for characters, like, so the ones that just seem ironic, like a gnome barbarian, things like that. I think my favorite that I've tried is actually a half orc wizard, and that's actually the character that I tried the wizard with the first time. I like that combination a lot because the two sides, while a lot of people will be like, no, go for the min-max, pick the race that supports this. On that front, I personally think it's better to have a race that, if you want to, pick whatever race you want. On the side of shenanigans, I really liked having the extra health and toughness of a half-orc with the cloth caster because they're built to last and they've got the magic on the side. You're still squishy, but you've got a little bit more grit than an elven spellcaster might, if that makes sense.
Well, you could also do a turtle wizard for that boost with AC. But... All right, Krem,
Yeah,
how about you? Have you found anything?
I think that I don't like. I'm not sure I would play an artificer again just because it's too much to think about. But maybe with a little more prep, yeah. And I like Coben too much to ever give him up. But
Coben is a wonderful sweet bean.
one thing I really like tend to be well, I played a barbarian once that I want to get back to someday. It was pretty much my only in-person campaign I've ever had that worked out. Her name was Gertrude. She was very old. She wore muumuus. She was great. Just a ball of rage and old womanness. So I'd love to get back to characters like that again. Just it's fun sometimes after you've been playing a lot of brain heavy characters to be able to say, yeah, no, I just hit the thing.
Definitely. There is something to be said for, and I would like to rage and then just punch stuff.
Whack.
There's a simplicity in that is just so enjoyable.
I think less from like a mechanic standpoint, but also doubling up on like what you guys are saying. If like if you decided to play something that isn't really like your typical role for like a long form campaign, like I'm a pretty like chaotic person, but like Flux is pretty like straightforward and very like serious demeanor and all that sort of stuff. But like in all honesty, there's a lot of times where I'm like in the Spelljammer one shot where I was like the click clacks like, no, I'm gonna crawl into the vents with the monsters. Forget it, I'm going in. Like. I think less to do with like mechanics and stuff like that, because I like all the classes pretty much the same, but just like how the characters play themselves.
Yeah, and that's another thing I've at least caught for myself is, and I'm sure other people do this too. I'm not saying, oh my goodness, these people do this people do that. This is more just calling myself out. Is once you've played several characters, I find that I tend to get into a, for lack of better wording, typecasting. So I tend to lean towards the more serious, generally sarcastic and somewhat disgruntled characters, like Catabasis, for example, and Evatoria. Like, he's not the first character I've played with that kind of attitude. He's different than some of them. He's not identical to, say, Belgos, who's my, as far as D&D goes, my OG grumpy jerk. But I tend to fall into that kind of personality typing. So I find for one shots, it's a really good way to try and stretch that boundary, push out of the typecasting. And some of the most fun I've had as far as reaching out of my usual is she was in one of the EVU one shot we did a while back. And she was actually I think she was a Triton. I don't remember what class she was, but she was basically a follower of Nalome. And so much absolute chaos happened by accident while I was playing that character. That it was a really good little thing to just be like, hey, try this in a big campaign. Play somebody who's not just the serious dad figure, so to speak.
Do it. Do it.
I'll try, but I don't know if you guys would want to handle me playing that kind of a character all game, because Curly was kind of crazy.
What I'm hearing is that
The crazier the
campaign
better.
campaign 4, you're going to be playing a follower of Nolom.
I don't know. I'm not even planning for campaign 4 right now. I'm still trying not to plan for campaign 3 because I've already got so many ideas for characters for campaign 3. So it's like, no, stick to Catabasis, stick to the antics right now. Stop planning for campaign 3. No, come back here. So it's like, I don't want to even try to think about campaign 4 yet.
I think we've just gone just a bit over an hour, and I know a couple people need to flee soon. I think we should wrap up. Is there anything else you guys want to say for closing up?
Yeah, I want to ask Krem, what one shot would she like to play most in the future? Like, what's something that would hook you in?
Well, honestly, now that we brought up the steampunk one again, I've got that on the brain. So I would like to run that eventually. But man, I mean, my favorite part is a lot of the times just seeing what people come up with. So I'd be down for anything. It's just my schedule never lets me do them. But I do like the horror, spooky, Halloweeny themed ones. Those are always my favorites. So if you guys have got any ideas for those.
Yeah, anything else you want to add so I can stick it in the ammo box?
He's loading the one-shot file with excited intent.
Yeah.
I will say this one shot is looking to be a bit more spooky this year.
I hope so.
Ooh.
Poor Santa Man, he can't catch a break when he's around us.
At least it's only once a year.
I mean, it's quite clear from the title of the Christmas one shot.
Exactly. All right. Well, then I guess we'll tell our YouTube goodbye, and goodbye to the Vault Dwellers and the aliens.
So long.
Goodbye.
Farewell. Thanks for all the fish, and keep on rolling.
Stay safe out there.
We'll catch you next time.